Okay, so we've just listened to a few channelings,
Yeah.
and one of them that you were triggered by was the fear of confrontation.
That's
is that-
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So what were you feeling in your body when you were listening to that?
Oh, okay. I didn't actually tune into my body at all.
Okay, so what was it that you were that you heard that triggered
okay.
you?
So I was really moved by the farmer,
Right.
and you know he was an innocent and very loving and.
Mhm. Yeah. So that's bringing it up now. Where's that? What's the emotion?
The emotion is. It's really hard to describe because it's so internal.
Yeah. Okay. So even though I've got this internal emotion,
Even though I've got this internal emotion,
that's really hard to describe.
it's really hard to describe.
But it came up when I heard the farmer
But it came up when I heard the farmer
talking about his experiences.
talking about his experiences.
He was a gentle, loving man
Yeah, he was a gentle, loving man
who birthed baby animals
who birthed baby animals
and had lovely dinners with his neighbours.
and had lovely dinners with his neighbours.
He was a gentle,
He was a gentle,
earthy man.
earthy man.
And I felt his fear.
And I felt his fear,
And I still feel that in my body.
and I still feel that in my body.
And wherever this has come from,
And wherever this has come from,
whatever life I lived,
whatever life I lived,
I want to go there and dissolve it.
I want to go there and dissolve it.
I mightn't even know where it comes from.
I mightn't even know where it comes from.
I mightn't even have to know.
I mightn't even have to know.
But I can tune into the feeling.
But I can tune into the feeling.
The feeling that that farmer was feeling.
That feeling that that farmer was feeling.
All his fear,
All his fear,
his confrontation,
his confrontation,
knowing that death was imminent.
knowing that death was imminent.
He was faced by the toothless titan,
He was faced by the toothless titan,
and everything slowed down in slow motion
and everything slowed down in slow motion
as he reviewed his life,
as he reviewed his life.
the gentleness of his life on the land,
The gentleness of his life on the land,
and having to face this confrontation that he didn't want to face.
and having to face this confrontation that he didn't want to face.
And he wanted to run the other way.
And he wanted to run the other way.
And I have that fight or flight response
And I have that fight or flight response
trapped in my body.
trapped in my body.
And wherever it's come from,
And wherever it's come from,
I want to dissolve it all the way back to its origin,
and I want to resolve it all the way back to its origin,
wherever it came from.
wherever it came from.
And it may be something similar to that gentle farmer.
And it may be something similar to that gentle farmer.
So I'm instructing my body
So I'm instructing my body
and all the multi-dimensional layers of my cells
and all the multi-dimensional layers of myself
that hold the memory and the record of this.
that hold the memory and the record of this.
And I choose to step through it
And I choose to step through it.
and thank the cells for holding onto it
And thank my cells for holding onto it, or these cells to hold
Yeah.
onto it,
to protect me in some way.
to protect me in some way.
But it's my highest intention now
But it's my highest intention now
to dissolve this response all the way back to its origin.
to dissolve this response all the way back to its origin.
It's my higher learning and higher purpose to step through it.
It's my highest learning and highest purpose to step through it.
And when I'm confronted,
And when I'm confronted,
I choose to dissolve the fight or flight response,
I choose to dissolve the fight or flight response,
my wanting to run the other way
my wanting to run the other way,
and step through it
and step through it,
and allow it to just dissolve,
and allow it just to dissolve,
knowing that it's come from somewhere else
knowing that it's come from somewhere else,
and that I'm safe now,
and that I'm safe now,
especially when I connect to my higher self,
especially when I connect to my higher self,
that part of me that's been with me through all those lives,
that part of me that's been with me through all those lives,
that knows that I never die,
that knows that I never die,
that I'm always alive
that I'm always alive
in different forms.
in different forms.
Death is a temporary experience.
Death is a temporary experience.
And I choose to release all my fears around impending death.
And I choose to release all my fears around impending death.
Especially when faced by confrontation.
Especially when faced by confrontation.
It's something I step through.
It's something I step through.
And as soon as I step through it, I'm greeted with an immense wash of love.
And as soon as I step through it, I'm greeted with an immense wash of love.
And I choose to feel that wash of love.
And I choose to feel that wash of love.
And send it to me when I was in fight or flight.
And send it to me when I was in fight or flight.
When I tune into that farmer.
When I tune into that farmer.
That gentle farmer.
That gentle farmer.
Faced with imminent death.
Faced with imminent death.
That confrontation.
That confrontation.
I choose to bring that wash of love.
I choose to bring that wash of love.
To my moment of death.
To my moment of death.
And just before it.
And just before it.
Allowing me to feel the peace.
Allowing me to feel the peace.
And the wash of love.
And the wash of love.
And knowing that it's only temporary.
And knowing that it's only temporary.
And as I step through that fear of confrontation.
And as I step through that fear of confrontation.
By allowing the wash of love.
By allowing the wash of love.
I dissolve any future or past fears of confrontation.
I dissolve any future or past fears of confrontation.
And I dissolve it in the now.
And I dissolve it in the now.
So that I can move forward without that fear.
So I can move forward without that fear.
And I might even choose to step into it.
And I might even choose to step into it.
And be surprised at the wash of love I feel.
And be surprised at the wash of love I feel.
And the support.
And the support.
And how easily I connect with my higher self and guides.
And how easily I connect with my higher self and guides.
And find my own inner strength.
And find my own inner strength.
That comes from a soul level.
That comes from a soul level.
And my connection to my higher self.
And my connection to my higher self.
So that even when I tune into that farmer.
So even when I tune into that farmer.
That gentle farmer.
That gentle farmer.
Faced by that toothless titan.
Faced by that toothless titan.
I feel his wash of love.
I feel his wash of love.
As he steps through his karma.
As he steps through his karma.
And he feels the wash of love.
And he feels the wash of love.
And he's able to feel that as he's confronted.
And he's able to feel that as he's confronted.
He feels the higher learning and the higher purpose of it all.
He feels the higher learning and the higher purpose of it all.
So if you imagine that higher learning and higher purpose of that farmer,
yeah,
what would it be?
I can only think of negative things.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So what's the negative things that are there?
It's not good to be weak.
It's not good to be weak. Alright. Even though I feel it's not good to be weak.
It's not good to be weak.
And that's what's triggered in me.
And that's what's triggered in me.
I choose to look at where this comes from.
I choose to look at where this comes from.
So that I can dissolve it once and for all.
So I can dissolve it once and for all.
That farmer learned it's not good to be weak.
That farmer learned it's not good to be weak.
But I wonder what weak means.
But I wonder what weak means.
He was strong when he was birthing animals.
He was strong when he was birthing animals.
When he was tending to the land.
When he was tending to the land.
When animals needed to be put down.
When animals needed to be put down.
He had his strengths and his weaknesses.
He had his strengths and his weaknesses.
But he wasn't strong facing a toothless titan.
But he wasn't strong facing a toothless titan.
He wasn't strong in the ways of fighting.
He wasn't strong in the ways of fighting.
It was knowledge he didn't have.
It was knowledge he didn't have.
He didn't know how to protect himself.
He didn't know how to protect himself.
And he felt weak.
And he felt weak.
And I felt his weakness.
And I felt his weakness.
And my lesson might be it's not good to be weak.
My lesson might be it's not good to be weak.
And wherever that comes from,
And wherever that comes from,
I want to dissolve it.
I want to dissolve it.
That fight or flight response,
That fight or flight response,
that feeling that it's not good to be weak, it meant my death.
that feeling that it's not good to be weak, it meant my death.
I died because of it.
I died because of it.
And every cell in my body is telling me, don't be weak again.
And every cell in my body is telling me, don't be weak again.
And I want to let the multi-dimensional layers
And I want to let the multi-dimensional layers
connect with the higher self
connect with the higher self
and feel that wash of love
and feel that wash of love
and feel the purpose
and feel the purpose
behind the lesson.
behind the lesson.
Maybe weakness is just a perception.
Maybe weakness is just a perception. Yeah. He faced his death bravely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He protected his land.
He protected his land.
He was going to be killed either way.
He was going to be killed either way.
He stood up for his beliefs.
He stood up for his beliefs.
And he was strong in his weakness.
And he was strong in his weakness.
His perceived weakness.
His perceived weakness.
His human perceived weakness.
His human perceived weakness.
But there was a strength in that.
But there was a strength in that.
And I want to dissolve my fear
And I want to dissolve my fear
so that I can find my strength in my weakness.
so that I can find my strength in my weakness.
So what's coming up for you as where you felt weakness?
I run from everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't stay or fight it out.
Mm-hmm.
I take the easy
Mm-hmm.
route.
Yep, let's go back in. Even though
Even though
I've been triggered to run the other way,
I've been triggered to run the other way.
and my fight or flight response just says, get out of there.
And my fight or flight response says, get out of there.
I accept myself
I accept myself
and my body's responses,
and my body's responses.
and I want to dissolve it all the way back to its origin,
And I want to dissolve it all the way back to its origin,
wherever it began,
wherever it began,
in this life or another.
in this life or another.
I'm instructing my body
I'm instructing my body
and all the multi-dimensional layers
and all the multi-dimensional layers
where my Akash is stored
where my Akash is stored
that it's time to dissolve this.
that it's time to dissolve this.
I want to stand up and face my fears,
I want to stand up and face my fears,
just like the farmer did.
just like the farmer did.
He was able to do it,
He was able to do it,
to find strength in his weakness,
to find strength in his weakness.
and I want to find my strength
And I want to find my strength
and be able to stand my ground
and be able to stand my ground
instead of running the other way.
instead of running the other way.
My fight or flight response,
My fight or flight response,
triggered in this life,
triggered in this life,
which may have come from other lives,
which may have come from other lives,
where maybe I did stand my ground
where maybe I did stand my ground
and I was killed for it.
and I was killed for it.
And so now I run the other way.
So now I run the other way.
But maybe there's a lesson there for me,
But maybe there's a lesson there for me,
a higher learning and a higher purpose.
a higher learning and a higher purpose.
The test is to stand my ground this time,
The test is to stand my ground this time,
knowing that I won't be killed for it,
knowing that I won't be killed for it,
knowing that I can find strength in that weakness.
knowing that I can find strength in that weakness.
And when I have the urge to run the other way,
And when I have the urge to run the other way or hide with other things,
or hide with other things, I find the strength to be who I really am
I find the strength to be who I really am
and stand my ground.
and stand my ground.
So what colour would help you to dissolve that need to run the other way and to help you stand your ground?
I think a white or, You know, like really strong water.
Mm-hmm. Strong water.
Mm.
Okay. Hmm. That's interesting. So what colour is standing out to you there? You have clears as well. As the colour that's required for you to be able to dissolve that need to run the other way. White dragon. White dragon's been getting a lot of use lately. So breathing that in. And sending it to all parts of all the multidimensional layers.
Sending it to all parts of the multidimensional layers.
All the way back to all the times I needed this strength.
All the way back to all the times I needed this strength.
Breathing it into every part of my being.
Breathing it into every part of my being.
Sending it to all the times I required it.
Sending it to all the times I required it.
In the past,
in the past,
in this life,
in this life,
and in the future.
and in the future.
It's safe for me to stand my ground.
It's safe for me to stand my ground.
Dissolving that fight or flight response and the need to run the other way.
Dissolving that fight or flight response and my need to run the other way.
It's safe for me to stand my ground now.
It's safe for me to stand my ground now.
I choose to move through that lesson.
I choose to move through that lesson.
And find my strength.
And find my strength.
In what I thought was my weakness.
In what I thought was my weakness.
And it might even be easier than I thought.
And it might even be easier than I thought.
And I might feel my higher self and spiritual support.
And I might even feel my higher self and my spiritual support.
Helping me to stand my ground.
Helping me to stand my ground.
Dissolving that fear and fight or flight response.
Dissolving that fear and my fight or flight response.
I choose to feel that safety.
I choose to feel that safety
in being able to stand my ground.
in being able to stand my ground.
And find strength in my weakness.
And find strength in my weakness. Okay, that's interesting.
So when you think now of that farmer, that gentle farmer facing the toothless titan.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah. And what about when you say for yourself, when I'm faced with confrontation, I usually run the other way?
When I'm faced with confrontation, I usually run the other way. I still feel a tiny bit in my chest.
Cool, it's a lot less than what it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
Even though
my
body is still processing this,
body is still processing this,
and I still have a tiny bit left in my chest,
and I still have a tiny bit left in my chest.
I accept the way my body's processing this,
I accept the way my body's processing this,
and I allow it to continue.
and I allow it to continue.
After all, I've had it for lifetimes.
After all, I've had it for lifetimes.
I can't get rid of it in just minutes.
I can't get rid of it in just minutes.
It might take a whole half an hour.
It might take a whole half an hour.
And I accept myself
And I accept myself
and the way my body's processing this.
and the way my body's processing this.
I give my body permission to process the little bit that's left
I give my body permission to process the little bit that's left
in my chest.
in my chest.
When I imagine standing my ground
When I imagine standing my ground
and feeling my spiritual strength,
and feeling my spiritual strength,
my spiritual purpose and lesson,
my spiritual purpose and lesson,
the test that I've stepped through now,
the test that I've stepped through now,
and feeling the strength of that,
and feeling the strength of that
white dragon
white dragon
that I bring into my chest.
that I bring into my chest.
Get the spray the right way. Feeling the life purpose and the life lesson.
Feeling the life purpose and the life lesson.
Now that I've stepped through that perceived weakness.
Now that I've stepped through that perceived weakness.
And find my strength in it.
And find my strength in it. Wow, I feel my heart opening.
Feeling the strength
Feeling the strength
as I stand my ground.
as I stand my ground.
With that spiritual and higher knowledge.
With that spiritual and higher knowledge.
And that soul purpose.
And that soul purpose.
And support.
And support.
I stand my ground.
I stand my ground. Thank you.
Yeah, how feels that?
That was awesome. Wow. Wow, that can be like the ultimate life-changing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for demonstrating. Awesome.
Thanks everyone.
Yeah, because we're all part of that.